Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Tejera, your host, and this is Industry Standard. Today on the program, we have Victoria Canal. She's a singer-songwriter known for her introspective lyrics and deeply honest songs. Her hit Swan Song has millions of listens on Spotify. She's played with artists including Coldplay, Hozier, JP Saxe, Lawrence. Her album Slowly It Dawns was released to critical acclaim. She's been on the Apple TV show Little America. She's also a dear friend. I've known her since the 3rd grade. Stay tuned and thanks for watching. Victoria, welcome to the program. It's so nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
You are an incredible artist. You're a longtime friend. I'm so excited to have you on this show. Thank you for doing this, dude.
I was just thinking, as I was watching you do the intro, I was thinking about us being I guess I would have been 6 and you would have been 8 years old, and I was over at your house, and you had this sort of stage setup at your house, right? It was some sort of stage situation, and we were both singing, and that was one of my earliest memories of performing in any way was you and me singing karaoke at your house.
We've been doing this since we were little.
Yeah, isn't that insane?
I know. Time flies, man.
It's crazy. Now we're so old.
We're so old. We're so old. I remember watching you play piano in recitals at ASM.
Wow.
And just being like, this girl's gonna do this the rest of her life.
Didn't we have the same piano teacher?
We had the same piano teacher.
Shout out Daniel Karadian.
Shout out to Daniel if you're listening.
He definitely will.
He will listen to this.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's so much I want to ask you about, but I want to start with a topic that I love, which is self-love. I feel like you write about it. We've talked about it. And you know, as an adult, as an artist, as a queer person, tell me about your relationship right now to self-love.
It's a great question. I feel like my songs are maybe more identified as being about self-reckoning and really excavating the different layers of the self that are hard to look at and sometimes tricky to accept. And I think life is a long process of staring yourself in the face and seeing what's really there and being like, okay, what do I do with this? And I think that's the process of self-love, really. To me, it's not glazing over and pretending everything's fine. I think culturally there's a little bit of a cult, what would the word be? Just a tendency to try to erase or avoid the hard shit. And I feel like the true self-love is not just being as idyllic as possible or avoiding the heavy, the shadows, but really seeing those too and being okay, this is all of me. I see all of me, and for what it is, and I carry that with me with as much grace as possible.
Yeah. Are there moments when you feel the most self-love? Are there moments when you're performing or writing a song or with a certain, group of people that you feel wow, I really love myself right now?
When I'm in a room of people who all feel relaxed and accepted because of the energy I'm bringing to the room, when I really exude love and joy and laughter and a sense of humor, I think that's when I most love myself, you know, and I find it much easier to find that the essence of self-love when I'm in a community with other people.
Yeah, is that communities of artists specifically, or just
sometimes anyone? Yeah, I mean, a community of very intentionally chosen people. Sometimes it's artists, but no matter what, it's usually deep and very funny people.
I'm curious, when did you first realize you were an artist and this was going to be your track? And, was there like a specific song or moment when you were like, wow, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah, you remember Ali Vergara?
Yeah.
So my childhood best friend, Ali Vergara, was my next door neighbor in Madrid. And when I moved away from Madrid, I got thrown a surprise sort of going away party. And at this party, I performed one of my original songs for the first time. I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called, maybe I'll Be There. And it was for Ali. And it was sort of saying, like, even though I'm leaving, like, we will still be close and, like, I'll still be there for you. And I think that was really, in my memory, the first moment that I felt like I was supposed to be an artist, meant to be a songwriter, because I was telling a story and I was like reaching really intentionally into someone specific and connecting with them. And I think I've always seen songwriting as like a conduit for connection and intimacy in a way, where I really like songs that are addressed to certain people or from a certain person's perspective, if not my own.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I love that. And I want to talk as well a little bit about, the industry you're in. This podcast is really trying to dig into people's work and the realities of the industry. I think a lot of people who aren't in music don't really know what it's like on the inside to be an artist. Obviously, in my head at least, it's like this very glamorous thing. I picture people on like jets and like, And we've had a lot of conversations in private about this too. But tell me, like, what do people think the music industry is like, and what is a more maybe realistic version of that?
Well, the most common sort of like reaction I get when I say that I'm on tour all the time is that it must be so cool to travel, and that there's just like a certain glamour associated with this industry. And granted, there is a certain level that I've been around that is that kind of glamour. Like, that does exist, but not for most artists, and definitely not for me most of the time. Seeing as I'm like, I am a very DIY artist. Like, when I tour, there's not a bus, there's not a jet, it's like usually a rented car, with one, maybe two other people, really trying to cut every corner, and it's long travel days, and it's very little sleep, and it's gas station food, and it's sometimes like very poorly attended shows. But then, and all that stuff can be really exhausting. And then there's the payoff of like the really good show, or even if, the real payoff is like, even if 15 people come to a show in Milwaukee or something, if there's one person that comes up afterwards and is like, I have to tell you that Swan Song made me start talking to my brother again, or, it reconnected me with my dad, or whatever it is, like, that makes that all worth it, So I feel like the reality of the life that you're talking about, that I live, is just lots of ups and downs. And it's a lot of like arriving to a place where you're like, holy shit, I wanted this all my life. And then it's over, and then you want a new thing and you're pining for it. And it's like a constant sort of revolving door of like opportunity you enjoy, but you're anxious, you want to make the most of it, and then it's gone, and then another one comes, and it's just like waves, just riding the waves all the time.
You've talked about, in your concerts, you talk about like gremlin mode versus like, I think it's like God mode or something.
Yeah, it's God versus goblin complex.
What is that?
Well, we all know the God complex, when you feel like you rule the world and everybody wants you and worships you and loves you. And then there's the goblin complex that I invented, which is when you don't want anybody to look at you, and you feel like you live underneath the surface of the earth. And I as a person tend to oscillate between the two, honestly. And we were just talking about that in the cab on the way over here. It's like sometimes you feel like the person, and sometimes you feel like an absolute nobody, and your perspective on yourself is so unreliable. I've always loved when I read a lot of novels, and I feel like just like the concept of an unreliable narrator is so fascinating to me, because that is the way that we live. Like, we have the most unreliable narrator in our mind,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I have an unreliable narrator in my head and major imposter syndrome.
Totally. Oh,
all
me too.
the time.
All the time.
Do you have do you feel like the ratio of goblin to god is like 50-50 for you?
That's a great question. Well, I have PMDD, so my goblin god ratio has a lot to do with my cycle. So whenever I'm PMSing, I'm definitely goblin, and then the rest of the time I'm decently towards god mode. But I have actually the screensaver on my phone says, "When you're on a high, be humble. When you're on a low, be hopeful." And yeah, that resonates a lot with me in terms of. My dad always says, like, it's never as good as it seems or as bad as it seems, and if you can really try to, like, minimize the crashing waves and make it more like a flowing river, you're off to a good start, you know?
We spend a lot of time together when we're in the same city, and I feel like I see you in confidence God mode most of the time.
Well, the thing is I tend to step into that within social contexts. I actually find it really hard to feel as alive or as confident when I'm alone. Like I very, very visibly come alive when I'm like in relation to other people, being as confident or like even like wanting to get dressed and feel pretty. It only really happens when I know I'm going to see other people. But when I'm alone, like I live in the French countryside right now, and most of the day I'm in goblin mode. Like I am, and it doesn't mean that I'm unhappy. It just means like I don't want anybody to look at me. I want to be an amorphous blob,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it also, a lot of it has to do with what you're wearing and like how you're feeling.
Totally.
Sometimes I'm wearing like sweatpants and a hoodie and I just feel like Pete Goblin. We were just talking about this the other day of like depending on also like what like how you're presenting, whether it's like more mask or more femme, that can also really change your aura.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was telling you that story the other day. I don't know if I could share it on the podcast because it involves certain substances. But I basically I attended this Hope conference a few weeks ago, and the thing is that I went like with not very much heads up, like it was very impromptu, and so I didn't really pack any clothes. I had my basketball shorts, I had my hoodie and my baseball cap, no makeup or anything, no jewelry. Like I wasn't really like feeling myself. I was just there to experience it. And then on one of the nights of this thing, there was sort of a live Tinder experiment, social experiment, where you'd put your name and then the people that you were kind of interested in at the camp and put it in a box and then see if you matched with anybody. And of course, I was like really disgruntled because I was like, well, fuck, nobody's gonna put me on their fucking list. Like this is so annoying and whatever. I was in a bad mood because I looked like shit. And I sat down with my friends and all of us took a certain substance, apple juice, and and so as the apple juice was hitting me, I was like, no one's gonna put me on their list. And my friend leaned over and was like, I know 2 women that put you on their list. I was like, what? And then someone else leaned over and was like, I know a guy that put you on their list. And I was like, what? And as the apple juice was sinking further in, I got this surge of confidence and I got up on my chair up in front of 100 people that were all sat around having dinner. And I went, people think I'm hot. And everybody turned. There was dead silence and then a huge roar of applause. And I was like... And I realized what I'd done, and I shot under the table and hid until the applause was over because I was so mortified. And I sat back up in my chair. And then from that moment on in the night, people were literally lining up to make out with me. I made out with 9 people in one night after over a year of not having made out with anybody, like feeling like the most unattractive person on this living earth. So anyway, what was the point of that story?
9 people in one night is probably more than I've hooked up with in my life.
In your whole life. There's a lot of good makeouts, honestly. But anyway, all that to say, like that actually really changed. That taught me something. That moment taught me something, that like your aura can speak for itself without you having to do any modifications socially. Like you don't have to put on a face. You don't have to put on a certain outfit to like let your essence just speak for itself. And you don't have to change like who you are to have people be attracted to you. And I think that's something, as someone like with severe body image issues and like a really complicated relationship with like beauty, and sexuality and like dating. For me, it's been a really big lesson this year that you can be exactly as you are, and like the people that are meant to find you attractive will be drawn to you if you just fully settle into your own skin.
Yes. And I think what I like a lot about you, and I really try hard to do in my life, is a sort of quiet confidence where you just know that you are, you're talented, you're a good person, you're kind, and I'm going to carry that into a room. And I think you do that very well, because some people are very loud about their confidence and it takes up so much space. And I think you and a lot of my close friends, I have that in common, which is like a quiet confidence where you're like the shit,
Sometimes. I mean, that's the God versus goblin thing. Like in front of Chris Martin, for example, I feel like I am literally, my friend calls it PED, personality evaporation disorder. I literally like evaporate as a human and have nothing to say because he's my biggest hero. And like, it's funny how depending on the space, I could either show up and be the quiet, confident person, or I say something stupid and like think about it for days afterwards. And I'm like, why did I try so hard? Or I had nothing to say and I was really awkward. You know what I mean? It's like, it depends on the day. It depends on the situation. It depends on if I'm on my fucking period. You know?
And you always remember like the silly thing you said one time, I always remember. I'm like,
it haunts you.
Yeah. But you're like the only person who remembers that.
Do you think?
Yeah. Like Gwen told me the other day she was in a coffee shop and she was like having like a little thing with a barista and she was like, oh God, I walked out and I was so awkward. And I was like, honey, only you remember that. Like the barista doesn't remember that.
Oh, dude, I had this moment the other day. Do you know Ben Howard?
Yes.
So he was at this songwriting retreat that I just went to, or this festival.
Music.
Yeah, me too. He was the first artist I ever covered on SoundCloud. And anyway, I was like in the same room with him at this festival residency in Cork. And shout out Sounds from Safe Harbor. It's a great festival. Anyway, I was in the same room as him. I hadn't met him yet. And I was like thinking about how to make my entrance for like 45 minutes. And then finally I saw my friend talking to him. So I was like, okay, that's my chance. So I went up and kind of stood between them. And I was like, can I join this conversation? She was like, sure. And I turned to him and I went, hi, I'm Ben.
Oh God. And he's like, hi, I'm Victoria.
No, he was like, I was like, I mean, you're Ben. I'm Victoria. And he was like,
okay.
Okay. I was like, no.
That's funny.
Oh my God.
But I'm sure he loved you.
No, we spoke about it a couple days after I got more comfortable. And I was like, by the way, that was the most embarrassing moment of my life. And he was like, no, I found it quite endearing, actually. So it was okay in the end. But all that to say, I'm not always quietly confident. Sometimes I'm actually a fucking awkward mess.
I love that. I love Ben Howard, and I feel like you guys should write a song together.
Yeah, well.
I used to listen to his music in the car all the time. Turn up the volume.
Yeah, totally.
It's so good.
Totally.
Are there artists like you've loved working with before?
Absolutely. I mean, I loved touring with Hosier. He was amazing. Getting to watch him sound check and sort of lead the band, and we like would hang out a lot and shoot the shit and like play games and like, I don't know, he was just cool to watch because he's so kind and so talented, and singing, we would sing together and it was just really special. And then obviously Coldplay has been such an amazing, just an amazing band to witness. They're so generous, they're so diplomatic, and they work on such a like high level and with true intentionality.
Yeah, watching you perform with them at Glastonbury was honestly, as your friend, a very cool experience.
It was insane. The whole process was like I'd never experienced anything like it, even in terms of the rehearsal. Like that's what stuck out to me most because it was just so well organized and thoroughly thought through. And, I was like sitting there with my hero, like kind of sneaking in backing vocals to see if I could make that, that part of the gig. Because initially I was only meant to play piano. And then in the rehearsals, I was like, I'm going to just sing. And then he was like, oh, that sounds great. You should definitely sing. And, and then he like was like, you got to get a camera on her, make sure there's like a angle, da-da-da. And, so I don't know, it just felt like so professional. It felt like everybody really wanted to be there. Chris obviously has like this incredible aura of just like gathering and community. And it was just overall very generous. And I think that's like the main thing that upon like meeting certain people that have a lot of influence and success in their career, the ones that really make a lasting impact and also seem the most fulfilled are the ones who are truly generous, and focus on giving. So that's definitely something that I've carried with me and tried to continuously get better at and implement in my life. Because as a struggling artist, I feel like it's just so easy to hold everything so close to your chest and be afraid to give it away, or be afraid to give credit, or pay people, or people are just so scared of losing the little that they have in this industry. And what I've found through particularly witnessing Coldplay is they were giving even before they had the means to give, 25 years ago. There was such a policy of giving back to nonprofits and just generally being inclusive in a way that has really inspired my ethos.
I love that. And I think you also give that energy, that generosity, and wanting to help and wanting to work with people and kind of give it your all. And I think you kind of get out what you put in,
Yeah, I mean, you can always do better. I definitely have so much to go, there's so much that I want to be able to do. The truth is, in response to your question about the realities of the industry, at someone at my level who is signed but doesn't have tour support, it does feel like I can never really compensate people the way that they're due. And that is my main aspiration in life, is to be able to have a crew, a band and a crew who are paid their full rate and they're comfortably traveling and nobody's cutting corners for any reason. You know what I mean? And that's really hard to accomplish because there's just not a lot of money for smaller artists. Labels have a lot of money, but they don't have it for artists like me.
I understand that completely. And I think touring, when, you have to you lug all of this equipment, that's really, really hard on your body, and you just end up exhausted,
Everybody's exhausted, yeah, for sure. And everybody's wearing multiple hats too.
Yeah, and then you have to go on stage and give it your all, and that's exhausting.
Yeah, especially there's an additional component to that, which is the beauty standard component, and how, you don't feel great about your body when you're in a van for 12 hours a day, and then you're supposed to feel great about it when you get on stage, and, supposed to feel good in your outfit and good about people taking videos and pictures of you, from every angle. And, I already have, I already put a lot of effort into accepting my body as it is, with my limb difference or my weight or whatever it is. My face, facial dysmorphia, I feel is such a real thing that people don't talk about as often. It's usually body dysmorphia, but the face, you can feel so dissatisfied with your face when it's the first thing that people look at.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? So something for me, for example, that I've struggled with for years about getting on stage is I know my angles, and even this interview, I'm being filmed from my left side because I prefer my left side, to the point where I literally feel like a different person from my right side. It's God, goblin. That's definitely the ratio there, to the point where, to be honest, I can't even, if someone's walking next to me, if they walk on this side, all I can think about is my appearance. And if they walk on this side, then I feel like it's fine. And I can
get
let
it.
go.
I totally get it. I mean, I think everyone secretly thinks they have a good side and a bad side.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like social media has made that so much worse, that face dysmorphia.
Totally.
Because you have all of these filters and you just don't know anymore what's real and what isn't.
Yeah, I don't know what I look like.
Yeah.
I only know how to make myself look a certain way. So then when it's out of your control, when people in general are photographing you, that can be really challenging for the psyche and your self-esteem. So yeah, it's definitely an added component of touring life and being a public, just a person who performs and putting yourself on display, especially in a society that casts so much importance on beauty.
Yeah. I have a weird relationship with social media for that reason, because I'm always how much of myself do I want to put out there? Are people going to be more judgmental than in real life? And I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that? Because you post a lot on social media. Is that ever in your mind of like, oh, I have to make this? Because even the other day, like you were making like a TikTok or something, and you did it so quickly, and it looked so good, and I was thinking like, damn, that would have taken me so much longer.
I don't generally feel that confident about it. I feel like it's something that I have to do to sort of stay relevant, and I always feel like I'm trying to keep up, to be honest. You know, there are artists like Leve, for example, who is extraordinarily talented, and she posts like 3 times a day, like 3 TikToks a day, and has done for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And it's incredibly consistent, and she always looks good. It's like always aesthetic. I'm always amazed. I'm like, how do you make your life look so pretty all the time? Like, I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? So then what I find often, to be honest, is I don't post nearly as much as I would on social media if I liked the way that I looked more often, you know? So often I'll like, you know, when you saw me make that video, it's because I had put my makeup on, I was wearing a cute outfit, the lighting was good, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is great, I'll just do this, and I look cute, so people are going to compliment my hair. Whereas, like, usually, you know, I'll try and be like, I don't like how I look, and then I'll just, like, delete the video or just, like, never post it, you know what I mean? So that actually has been a really big challenge for me, is, like, sometimes I don't put myself out there as much because I don't feel like people want to look at me, you know? And, yeah, that's just, like, the honest truth of it, is, like, I do really struggle with, like, not being a body or, like, having a face that, like, people really want to look at.
Yeah, well, it can be so reductive. I think social media is so reductive, you know, and there's just so much pressure to make it perfect. But I also feel like in your case, your fans really resonate with the content you put out. And I always like, you know, when you post something and I'm trying to comment, you know, I'll read the other comments and they're very like supportive and loving.
Yeah.
And, oh, I feel that too. Or like, oh, that thing also happened to me. And so I think that it's a double-edged sword, right? Because your fans also like connect to you in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I've really gotten out of social media is that sense of like solidarity. Like, I think that's my kind of mission statement for myself on social media, and the thing that makes me feel most aligned like with what I do is I am posting something so that someone else knows that I'm in the ring with them, you know, and like that we're in the same boat. If I focus more on that, then like, let me show you how great my life is and how pretty I am and how amazing I am, you know, whatever, like that people are trying so hard, I feel in general, to like prove that their life is so remarkable. And life can be remarkable, but it's not always remarkable. Sometimes it's really fucking plain, and sometimes it's really boring, and not everything is meant to be a spectacle. And we're now in a phase of society where everything is meant to be a spectacle. For social media, everything's meant to be performative and a display. And I don't know. There is part of me that really like runs against that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want that to be the way I live my life, because or the way that I consume, because then I always, like, even yesterday I saw, you know, a particular person's post, and it was like I was instantly comparing their birthday party to my birthday party, and the way that mine now feels like it was super lame and like too low key and whatever, versus their like big hotshot famous people, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
The comparison is just unending.
Yes. As you know, I'm obsessed with Billie Eilish. Obsessed. And I look at her post and I'm like, damn, like her tour looks so cool. Her friends look so cool. Her life is so awesome. Damn, my life is not that cool.
Oh my God. I've had that with Billie Eilish so many times since I was like 17 years old, you know, but I love her. I love her so much. And she is like unendingly cool. Back to the beauty thing. On my For You page, sometimes it's like just Billie's physical features are like, there's like an edit. It's like Billie's eyes, Billie's hands, Billie's neck,
yes.
Billie's da-da-da. And it's like, man, like it's just so fascinating to me how much emphasis on appearance there is. Like, what if she didn't look like that? You know, like what if, you know, I wish that I could say for certain that music as good as hers would still speak for itself if she, you know, was like a disabled, you know, like person who didn't like was like a completely different looking person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What if she wasn't that beautiful? You know, like, and that's not to say that, like, I just want to make it clear that, like, I think her music is exceptional.
Oh, for
and
sure.
like I think it speaks for itself. But I also know plenty of artists whose music should speak for itself, and because they don't fit a societal mold,
Yeah.
they might never get the eyes because people won't obsess over their appearance the way that they do someone like Billie.
And people obsess over Billie. I mean, for good reason, because
Yeah.
she's so
so
talented. But I
accessible.
understand what you're saying. Of
Yeah.
like, she's extremely talented and she's extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's hard if you're like one or the other.
I've thought about it so many times watching, you know, just like watching particularly women on stage at festivals. I'm like, is it like a coincidence that not only are they viciously talented, but also like thin and like, you know, white and like beautiful?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like symmetrical, like beautiful.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Or
Yes.
is there a world where, I don't know. I
Is
don't
there
really
a
know how
world
to.
where they're talented and not beautiful and,
Yeah.
and like that famous? Yeah,
Right.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
And I also think people, I mean, for example, again, back to my obsession with Billie, I feel, I'm going to come off as a fangirl right now, but I do feel some sort of like parasocial relationship because I know so much about her.
Same.
And, you know, and we kind of like talk about this a lot because we have a lot of like niche knowledge about artists.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird to feel like you don't know this person.
Yeah.
But as someone who's an artist and who's putting out content, do you ever feel pressured to put out parts of yourself to your fans that you would maybe otherwise keep private? Is there a pressure to like be relentlessly kind of like open about everything?
Yeah, I mean, speaking for my own experience, I often feel like I'm being a fraud if I'm not being honest about my experience. You know, if I'm like having a really hard time in life, but then I'm like putting out a brave face online without mentioning anything that I'm going through. Maybe it's just because I grew up online and I want to be so authentic, you know, that I feel that pressure. But I can't say it ever really, I don't know if it ever really makes me feel better to like share more of myself online. I just don't like lying, you know, like I don't like acting like something isn't what it is.
Yes.
And actually Billie in some interview years ago said like, don't post everything on the internet. Like advice to my younger self, whenever you want to like post all your shit on the internet, like just don't post it all. And I don't know if I've really learned that lesson. Like I've tried, you know, I've been through some really heavy stuff this year, particularly when it comes to like sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and like speaking out on those things. And I was suffering in silence, like trying to pretend that those weren't the most critical and pressing issues in my life, you know, trying to be like, here's my new single, hee hee. And, you know, and like not addressing those things. It just feels like I was hollowing myself out, like in an effort to keep things simple for the public. And however, now having shared a lot of those things, I am so subject to just public opinion. And some people are absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no world in which it's healthy to receive thousands of opinions from total anonymous strangers online.
Mostly
about
men, I'm sure.
Mostly men. A lot of like older women who are victim blaming, slut shaming, saying it's all my fault. You know, like it's shocking. And at the same time, it is my responsibility that I put myself out there for that like public opinion, you know?
Yeah.
And that was something that I didn't really consider when I like initially made my statement, which was really just for my own healing, you know, to like be able to close a chapter on and move on. And it is a two-way street. Like you think you're on display and that's it, but it's like it comes right back in full force.
Yeah.
It's like the more you share it, the more you get back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We had a lot of conversations prior to you posting about that topic and what that meant to you and how it made you feel. And it was a long process of like thinking. It was like you had been thinking about this.
Yeah, I had been holding it for years, but like thinking about going public for 6-7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there something that just made you wake up one day and be like, today's the day?
There was basically like a traumatic event earlier this year that like prompted me to realize something that had happened when I was young.
Yeah.
And essentially, like, I was like, I need to share this. Like, I feel like I'm living a lie if I'm not sharing this. And people around me were like, you're activated. You're not coming from like a level place. So just give it time. And 6 months from now, if you still want to like say something, go ahead. And that's what happened. I mean, like 6 months later, I was like, okay, I don't feel angry anymore, but I do feel like a responsibility to myself to not like suffer with this alone anymore, because it was so incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
So I think when my 27th birthday came around, I was like, I'm going to give this as a gift to myself. It's like a turning point in my life. It's Saturn's return. You know, like I want to welcome a phase of like freedom and just like letting go, like shedding, you know, surrendering. And yeah, in theory, it was a very beautiful, romantic, kind of like self-loving decision. And then in theory, or in practice rather, it has been very difficult, like very difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure. And as you said, you put out and it comes right back, and you subject yourself to everyone's opinion.
Yeah.
Hopefully some good as well.
A lot of good. Absolutely. And that's, I feel solace in the fact that a lot of people have reached out and said, like, I've been through something similar and this really helped me, like, not feel so ashamed or not feel so alone. You know what I mean? It's the same, it's the exact same current of like mission statement that I feel. I like with every song, you know, the only songs that I regret putting out are the ones that don't speak to that mission statement. You know, like the poppier songs that don't go deeper to say like, I'm here with you. Like this is what it is to be human, you know? Yes.
And you wrote a song, Body Behave. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Body Behave is about sort of me wanting to like move through this bodily trauma and wanting to experience pleasure and experience like a healthy, active sex life. And you know, it's directed towards like a boy that I had a crush on, and you know, just kind of laying there and like I just couldn't get the guts to kiss him because I knew that my body would shut down because it's shut down so many times in that situation. And it feels like it's kind of like a staking the claim and like the hope that my body will be able to like heal and move on from that trauma, and saying like, someday my body will start to behave. Like someday I will be able to fully explore and like accept the pleasure that I deserve.
It's a great song, dude.
It's nice to lean into the like wholesome aspect of it all.
Yeah.
It's a sweet song.
Tell me what other stuff you're working on. I mean, you're in this beautiful residency in Normandy, Laru. Tell me about Laru and tell me what you hope for it and how do you use it for your music?
Well, Laru it's an artist residency project that I am running with my brother Nicholas, and it's a family project where there are plenty of bedrooms and there's this big barn with a lot of different spaces for different creative disciplines. There's a music studio, that was my little corner I was a part of, and then there's like a painting studio and a pottery space and a woodwork shop, and like there's going to be, you know, like a yoga room and a screening room and things like that. So it's in this really idyllic place in France, and my ultimate dream for it is to particularly and specifically provide a safe space for women to become their own producers. Like I think our industry is extremely like discouraging when it comes to women empowering themselves to be their own artists, or their own producers rather, when they're artists. And I don't know, like 3% of the industry's like producers and engineers are women, and
that's crazy.
That's crazy. Like, crazy. And totally behind the times. And I have always felt that I had a good ear and a propensity for engineering, but always, in a lot of cases, was kind of like shooed to the back sofa. And that's not like anything against all the amazing producers I've worked with, but it's more just kind of the industry standard. It's like it's like you sit back there, I'll do the computer thing, and don't worry about like the technical stuff. And I like the technical stuff, you know, and I feel like there's sort of two parts to the song making process that are both fully fundamental. There's the songwriting and there's the production. And sometimes when a songwriter writes a song, especially when they write it alone, it starts here, like the song is very here. And then the production, if they're not very involved in it, if the songwriter isn't very involved, it can kind of get pulled further and further away until by the time it's mastered, it doesn't even feel like your song anymore. And I've had that situation quite a few times over the course of my career. And the times that I haven't had that is when I have a heavy hand in the production, co-producing with someone or producing on my own, like Swan Song I made on my own. Except Rob Moose did the strings on it, which, by the way, right after this is one of the things I'm working on is right after this, I'm going to the studio with Rob Moose and we're working on an EP together that sort of speaks to my journey this year. And it's a very introspective, very dark EP.
We're getting dark, Victoria.
Very emo, yeah. I feel like this EP and the next album are going to be like proper emo.
I love that.
Yeah, no part of me is desiring to be like the fun pop star at the moment, you know?
Yeah.
I just want to be deep.
When you're yourself, and you're feeling the mood that you're feeling, people resonate with that. And people also see through artists who are not actually performing or releasing music that is actually them.
Totally. And I think that's the challenge, the everlasting challenge of being an artist is you have to keep up with the times. You have to try to stay relevant in some way. And some of the best artists know how to adjust and adapt according to what's popular, but it still remains like essentially them. I think it's really challenging. You know, even with my album, a couple of the songs on my album, I think we're really trying to push to be more like a Sabrina Carpenter, a Chapel Roan, you know, like whatever, just like lean into like the fun, pop, loud, like almost in drag, like pop star. And like, that's just not who I am. Like I play my guitar or the piano, sing my songs. And so it's been, and those songs themselves are like one particular song. It feels like it's so far from like the essence of like what I actually want to like emit as like put out as a songwriter. And I don't know, it's just like a constant journey of like feeling aligned with what I'm making and really believing in it through the releasing process. You know, I know a lot of artists that like regret music that they've put out. And I think that's also a very natural part. Even the best artists, you know, are like, oh man, it's just a stupid album, stupid song.
I don't know much about the process of writing a song. I'll be honest. I don't know. You were saying before there's the songwriting process, there's the production process. For someone, dumb it down for me a little bit. Do they get made at the same time? Do you write the lyrics and then you work with someone and tell me from square one, what does that look like?
Great question, and it really depends. It's more old school to go I write a song and then bring it to a producer and then we make the song together like after it's written or like add production elements. Much more commonly today, because people get set up on songwriting sessions with producers and with other songwriters. One of the reasons that happens is because it's cheaper to do so. Like you are basically involving the producer as a songwriter and therefore don't have to pay them the production fee for a demo that day. But the demo is basically the finished product at a certain, you know, it's like can be very close to what the song would sound like. And I think that's kind of the way that like labels and publishers have reframed everything is like if you make it more collaborative, then you're not spending 20, 30, 50 grand hiring a producer to go in and record 12 songs. You're like, you're going in and dating like 20 different producers on, you know, like for free and sort of coming up with all these different songs. And then if it gets chosen for the album, then you pay them a producer fee. So I don't particularly agree with that like model, but that's definitely the way that it goes down these days because labels and publishers, everyone's just a little stingy right now, you know, like it's out of desperation, I feel, because of the shifts into streaming and, you know, away from physical sales. So all that said, to answer your question, like when I do a session, the production is like kind of woven into the songwriting. It's you'll write a verse and then be like, okay, well, let's start putting in the chords right now. And as we finish the song, I'll have, these other sounds pulled up and it'll like already be taking shape. So it's all very like, go, 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 go. We've got, 6 hours until the end of the day and da-da-da. But old school wise, I feel like it's like, and this is kind of what I'm doing more now, that I have my own studio, is I will write the whole song before touching a computer, and that might take weeks. It might take 30 minutes. It all depends. And then I begin the production process. But I like to have the song finished these days before touching anything sort of production-wise.
Does that really change the process of, does that change like the meaning of the song? Does that change it on an artistic level if you've written the song? If you're not doing song production, and you just put out the song, do you feel more liberty to just put out like the authenticity of that song?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're challenged more as a songwriter to make sure that the song stands on its own when it's just written on an instrument rather than clouding it with a bunch of production.
It's like more analog, I guess.
More analog, yeah. And it's a certain genre, really, like singer-songwriter, folk, like indie. You know, I think that leans towards more, let me write the song and then the production just like sort of ornaments it rather than production being like a fundamental part of the composition.
Yes.
Which that also has total value. It's just kind of a different
Very
way.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to the making of Lord's song Daughter a few weeks ago, and it's a great song and she's so talented. And that process seemed very different where they would have a little bit of the song and a little bit of the production and then change this drum and change this, and if you change this drum then you change this lyric.
Yeah.
That seems like a very different way to go about it than what you're saying.
Totally. I mean, I enjoy both. I'm definitely in the mode of just like really wanting to, I think it's because I've come to the realization that I love performing acoustic. And so I want to make sure that if that's what I'm doing on tour, I'm not going to do tracks. I'm not going to do the pop thing. Like I tried that last year. It didn't work for me. You know, I was like convinced that was the path. And I was like, I'm going to lean into the pop star thing. And it just doesn't jive with me. I like sitting, talking about the song, playing the song, telling stories, making people laugh. Yes. You know, it's much more acoustic. So I want to make sure that I can play the songs that I'm writing. Whereas last year I came into this challenge where I wanted to do acoustic shows and then I couldn't play the songs because the production had been so fundamental that I couldn't represent the song live.
Yeah, that makes sense. I also think your voice really holds on its own, and when you're just kind of like singing your heart out, that's like you shine, you know. And I actually feel that way about a lot of artists. I sometimes feel like I think Renee Rapp, for example, has an incredible voice, and when I most see her shine is when she's just singing and there's not too much behind it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I feel that way about a lot of artists. Like my favorite performances in the world have been just someone with their instrument, like Adrienne Linker at the Barbican. You know, it was just her and two like very soft. There was a very soft violinist and very soft piano playing, but otherwise the instruments were here and the vocals and the lyrics were here, rather than like fighting. You're like wearing earplugs, everything's really loud, and you're like fighting to understand the lyrics, fighting to make out the vocal. You know, I don't want that show experience anymore.
Yeah. So in the EP you're working on now, can we expect more like ballady type stuff?
Yeah, like think, you know, kind of just like the most gut-wrenching Radiohead songs from like the acoustic times, like the Bends and, you know, like that sort of era. That's kind of what I'm leaning into, and it's all just like live piano vocal. So
I love that.
Yeah, I recorded it live, and then I'm just like ornamenting around that.
What has inspired you to go that route? Is it like artists that you're listening to at the moment where you're like, that sounds amazing, I want to sound like that?
Absolutely. It's artists that I'm inspired by. It's also just like learning more about like what I want to be doing live if and when I tour and what's speaking to me at the moment. I think I just like want to lean away from anything artificial and anything synthetic, you know. Like I think I've tried and put a lot of effort into just like fitting into
the pop girly,
like fitting into what I think the industry wants from me. And there's a lot of music that I've put out that I'm super proud of, and all of that music is soft and real and much more vulnerable. And
Swan Song.
Yeah, I mean that I made that in my parents' basement, like on my laptop, just like playing a MIDI keyboard, singing the vocals, sending it to Rob for strings, and that was it. You know, so. Yeah,
Seems like you're kind of going back to your OG process.
Yes.
And I love that. It's a little bit going against the grain because I feel like there's a huge pop girly trend at the moment, and you're saying, I tried to do that, it doesn't work for me, I want to do something else, which is just let my voice be like the star of the song.
Yeah. And it's also just really coming to terms with what is it that I actually love listening to. And it's usually really the like soft and or dark stuff. Like I love Adrienne Laker, I love Feist, you know, like I love Bon Iver, like I love, you know, just like really Hosier, like, and then, you know, like Olivia Barton is like an amazing, Leith Ross, those are like two amazing songwriters, friends of mine who are just, it just speaks for itself. And I'm constantly just inspired by other artists. Like what I'm trying to really do is just like carve my own path. And as someone who like deeply compares themselves a lot, I think it's really easy to just be like, oh man, I love what she's doing, I'm going to do that. I love what they're doing, I want to do that. And whereas these days I'm like, okay, I take bits and pieces, and like part of what makes Laru so exciting to me is that feels like something unique to me. I don't know anybody else that's like in my position doing that particular project, like aiming to foster community for women producing. You know, that feels like that's my own thing.
Yeah.
And that's really given me some agency and like inspiration to just keep leaning into like what is just me. Like doesn't have to compare to anybody else, you know?
Is Laru sort of where you're calling home at the moment? And is it where you're calling home for your music at the moment?
Yeah, it's home at the moment. It's like, you know, my family has my brother and I at least have the like goal of living there into our old age and like having kids there and stuff like that. And, you know, I think he's getting into that phase of his life soon. And I don't know, it just feels like a natural sort of like hub, like center to all convene together.
I have a couple questions left for you, Victoria. One is you turned 27 recently. Mm-hmm. I feel like, and I've known you for so long, and I've seen you change so much since we were little. What is one way you feel like you've changed the most since you were like 26? What's one way that you feel like, even if it's like a thing with yourself that's not very noticeable on the outside, one way that you feel has been a little change in you?
I think the main change has been that I have slowed down significantly, and I mean that in the best way. Like, I feel like in moments of panic or doubt, or even like in some ways my ambition, I feel like there's been a shift to just like really finding value in slowing down. I used to really want to fix things as quickly as possible. I used to like want to avoid things by going as quickly as possible and being as productive as possible. And I think there's actually a lot of value in like doing things one step at a time and enjoying the slow, you know?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't, I don't have to be accomplishing as much as humanly, physically possible every second of the day.
Yeah.
And I've really found the deliciousness in that. And then the other thing I think I'd say is like I definitely make a practice of being my own friend.
What does that look like?
Well, I go through a lot of like ups and downs, and in the past, I think whenever I would be in a down moment, my inner sort of talk, that inner voice would be like, you're the worst for like being here now. Like you're, you know, how dare you feel sad? How dare you feel depressed? Like you suck, you know? And now it's like when I'm depressed or when I'm down, like I feel like my inner voice very slowly and surely has just been like, yeah, I'm here, you know, like this is where it is now. Let's be here and sit with that.
Yeah.
And I think that like inner voice, it's felt like a pretty monumental shift, and just that double arrow isn't there, and I can just like be with the feeling and yeah, just like be less alone. Like I don't think I'm alone anymore because I can be my own bestie, you know?
I love that. I'm still working on that big time.
Yeah, it's a process.
It's hard to quiet the like anxious thoughts in your brain.
I know, but there's the anxious thoughts, and then there's the bully, like bullying you for having the anxious thoughts. Like the anxious thoughts aren't going to go away. I'm always going to have a really complicated brain, but like I don't have to hate myself for it. You know, I can just be like, yeah, it's like things are really hard, or like, yeah, like this is where you are, and that's okay. You know what I mean? And I think even it just makes it a little, instead of making it as twice as hard as it needs to be, it just makes it like the hard that it already is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My last question is, there's a lot of like young artists who are going to be listening to this and who look up to you. Do you have advice, or, you know, if it was to your younger self, can you end us with some advice on, you know, getting into this industry?
If I were to speak to my younger self, I'd say, be patient. Keep your eyes wide open, especially if you're a young woman in the industry. Like, if you are young and talented, people will feel like they are entitled to you. And be careful. Don't sign just any contract because there's a big number there. Don't like go on tour with some person despite the fact that they might seem unsafe. Like, keep yourself safe. Be patient with the process. Enjoy the good stuff, you know? And just like I don't know, it's this quote that I keep coming back to. When you feel you're on a high, be humble. When you feel you're on a low, be hopeful.
I love that. Thank you for being on the program. It was so nice to have you.
I love you so much.
Love you.